on YouTube.
All right, here we go. This 5 o'clock hour. Paul's Top 5 coming up around the corner. But on Thursdays during the football season, the NFL season starts tonight. We will dive deep into fantasy football. Paul has a podcast. When does that run, Paul?
It's on right now. It's up there, yeah. So it's on.
It's
today.
up on
Thursdays
the
at noon.
Okay.
So yeah.
But Jennifer Smoke is a fantasy football league expert. That's how I was told to introduce her. She also is the president of a league in which there's a bunch of women, young women, and they're all angry as snakes. And they have teams, and they talk about each other terribly on text chats. But she joins us because she's going to try to help everybody understand who to have and who not to have. Jennifer, you had your draft earlier this week. You have Christian McCaffrey as the number 1 overall pick. Do you like your team this year as you enter the season?
Yes, I do. I feel a lot. First of all, hi, everybody. And I do. I feel, actually, this is probably the first draft in the last 2 years that I have ended it and actually feel very, very confident and feel like I did pretty well with the having the number 1 pick and having to wait so long in between picks. So, yes, I'm excited about this team.
So, Jennifer, full disclosure, you tried to get me to talk you out of drafting Christian McCaffrey because of his injuries. You had the first pick, but you took him, right?
Yes, I did take Christian McCaffrey. The reason I was debating is because it's funny because even though I feel like most people would say get Dalvin Cook next, get Alvin Kamara next, I was actually really interested in getting Derrick Henry. So I was debating on that just because, Derrick Henry had one of the best years last year. So I was, kind of not sure. But I love the way Christian McCaffrey played in 2019. And I also feel like the 3 games he did play in last year, he still was like the top 2 running backs in 2 of those games, top 5 in the other one. So I just feel like as long as he stays healthy, I think a lot of people are doubting him just because he had some injuries last year, but I don't feel like those injuries are that serious. So as long as he stays healthy, I think it's going to be a good pick compared to my other number 1 picks in the past.
Hello, Jennifer.
Hi.
No pressure. No pressure. You're only in front of the biggest audience we've ever had.
By the way, there are right now 11,300 people watching this segment, and
so no pressure. Just people from all over the entire country, and in some cases, foreign countries as well. So no pressure or anything. Yeah. So Christian McCaffrey, who's your quarterback?
My quarterback is Russell Wilson, which this year I had about 8 to 10 guys that I had written down on a piece of paper that I really wanted to try to get. And of course, because of the fact I have to wait 20 picks since I was the number 1 pick, when everyone started grabbing quarterbacks, it was just left and right. I didn't get exactly who I wanted, but I do feel like, Wilson is a great quarterback. And the last half of the season, he wasn't even in the top 10, but I do think that he'll be better this year. So I also got Jameis Winston as my backup, and from what I saw in the preseason games, I feel like he can be a hot commodity as well. So we'll just kind of see how it goes this year and try to rotate them out. But I am very sad that I wasn't able to grab my sweet little Herbie again this year, but that's okay. That's okay.
Her sweet little Herbie, Justin Herbert, is now her sweet little Herbie.
Yeah.
In 1 year. I mean, it took a year. And a sweet little, and she picked him up. That was not even an original quarterback. Paul, did she do well with Russell Wilson? I mean, 40 touchdown passes last year.
I think so. I mean, especially when she drafted him, she did send me the rundown. She's good across the board, got a good bench and everything. I was trying to find the text so I could put the roster up on the screen, Jen, but you have a good bench. You have good wide receivers. You got a good tight end. Yeah, I think you did well. The first pick can be tricky sometimes because you pick one and then
20.
You have to put 20 picks down the line.
Well, doesn't everybody really? No. Yeah, I guess you don't. You go 8 to 8.
Because it's a snake. So it's like beneficial to have the first pick, but then by the time it gets back to you, you get a back-to-back pick, which is great. But sometimes not everything you want is there. And yeah, Russell, I still think, you can't go wrong with Russell Wilson. I mean, he was, like I said, he wasn't in the top 10 at the end of the second half of the season, but he was still a number 1 fantasy throughout the whole first half of the season. So I have faith in Russell. I feel like he's a very consistent quarterback. So we'll see. Hopefully, he'll do good for me this year.
The key to this entire team, though, and I tried to talk to her about this before the draft, was you have positions, and like most people look at tight ends, if you don't have Travis Kelce or Kittles, who was hurt last year, among others, you just, you kind of let that one fade. But there's a huge gap between the top 2 or 3, Paul, and the rest of the tight ends. And I was telling her about this guy from Las Vegas, Halpin. He's really
gosh.
good.
Who?
Dad, stop. No, Dad's blind. I called my dad after I get my whole team drafted, and I'm actually really excited because in the past years I felt like, I was kind of upset about a few picks, but this year I actually feel like I have a pretty solid team. And Dad is just like, who's Waller? Who's Waller? I'm like, Dad, do you watch the NFL football league? Like, do you actually watch anything? Because Darren Waller, it was such, Darren Waller last year went a little under the radar because, of course, people like Travis Kelce with his record-breaking year, overshadow him. But he is really one of the best tight ends in the last 10 years. And after Kelce, Waller, and Kittle go off the board, the tight end position, like you said, becomes very slim. So I am very confident in Waller. I feel like I remember when I played him against him in the last years, he always screws me over. And he was actually 4th in overall receptions of any pass catcher, right behind Devontae Adams and ahead of Travis Kelce last year. So I think it's very important for me to have him in a PPR league.
Yeah, I was very impressed with that choice.
All right. By the way, Armstrong, I just sent over the images to you of Jennifer's team. So you can, if you want to put them up on the.
Well, we can do this because she hasn't lost yet.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Jennifer, what was it like, the text between you and all the other girls that are a part of your league?
Well, I mean, there hasn't been a ton of stuff said because our draft ended late on Labor Day. So of course people, had a long weekend. But I did say, are you allowed to say cuss words on this? But I did ask the girls, and I was like, am I the only one while we're drafting that thinks to themselves, you, B-I-T-C-H, anytime someone picks somebody right before you? And of course, everyone was like, yeah, 1,000%. I think we all think that. And so it's like, I just was sitting there the whole draft. It's like I'd have somebody in my queue, and then you'd hear the guy go, oh, looks like somebody else was interested in him too. And I'm like, oh, I can't stand her. Why did I ask her to be in the league? But no, it's just, I'm just joking. But it does get frustrating when someone takes who you want. But, that's going to happen. So that's why, that's how fantasy rolls.
Yeah. All right, so here's the lineup on the screen. Russell Wilson, Christian McCaffrey, we've talked about. James Robinson in Jacksonville.
James Robinson was a savior for her last year. He was steady as he could be.
Him.
Yeah. And
he was so consistent. Consistent.
Travis Etienne got hurt, so James Robinson becomes even more important to the Jaguars. Julio Jones, Adam Thielen, Darren Waller, Brandon Ayuk, all good picks. 49ers defense is all healthy right now, and Jason Sanders is quite often the top-ranked kicker. So.
Yeah, and here's the rest of them. Here's the rest of them. I'm a little bit worried about Thielen being her number 2 wide receiver, though.
Well, that's why you have other options. Like I've got Chase Claypool on my bench, and Chase Claypool, had a few great games last year. I feel like he could easily be a fantasy star this year, especially with Roethlisberger healthy. And I also have Marquez Callaway with the Saints. If you watch the preseason games, he had a lot of great catches. So, I do feel like I still have some great guys on my bench. And receivers are, those are the guys that you can pick up throughout the year that you can trade out. I've also got the second best defense, I feel like, the Rams. Then I've got Robert Tonyan, another great tight end, on my bench. So I do feel like if these girls would do any trades this year, I do have a little bit of trade bait with that. But I had Adam Thielen 2 years ago, and it was hit or miss. But last year, I feel like he had a good year, and I feel good about it. Okay. I did have Justin Jefferson last year, and I do think he'll be second to him. But I still think he's a good, viable target.
Yeah, Julio Jones he gets traded, so maybe there's a spark in his giddy up. I don't know.
Well, I mean, they've got A.J. Brown, and then I think Josh Reynolds is going to have a good year, the former A&M receiver.
Tyler Junior College, Paul, not A&M. Former Tyler Junior College player. Jennifer, of the girls in your league, there's 10 of them. Which one do you hate the most?
No, none of them. Only while we're doing the draft and then when I'm playing them. But other than that, I love them all.
Okay.
And you have to remember, Julio is, they're probably any team that's playing them is going to have their number one quarterback on A.J. Brown more than likely. So I hope that opens up some possibilities for Julio.
She's even trying to talk X's and O's and scheming now.
Yeah, she's very good. She was in it last year. Of course, you had the one team that I don't know how that draft happened. That was or how you even let it happen.
I do. She just had a bad night.
I got close last year. I got screwed is what happened, but it's fine. I'm over it. But I had this. I was afraid the girls were going to think I was cheating because we don't do the auto draft like where we pick the lineup through the ESPN league. I actually draw the names, and so last year I had the number 2 pick, and the year before that I had the number 1 pick. So the fact that I drew myself 1 again, I was like, I know they're going to think I'm cheating, but I record the whole thing and send them the video so they know I'm not. And I cut the pieces of paper exactly the same shape and size and fold them all the same way. So there's just it just happened to be a coincidence.
Yeah, but if they like you and they're best friends, you shouldn't have to videotape that, right, Paul? They should trust you.
Well, there's Jennifer, just in the future, in case they do, there's a website that has like a ping pong ball type thing that you can just randomize it and they can all see it.
Okay. All right, so good luck. It's great to have you back on the show. Well, of course, you'll have evidence next week.
And I'm playing Persia tonight. So, Persia's usually always has one of the best teams. She's got the only person she has playing tonight is Zeke. So hopefully they throw a lot.
There you go. Thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer Smoke.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Craig's sister and our daughter.
If you're asking why I'm not asking questions, I don't play fantasy football.
Yeah.
I'm not it's not my thing. I'll have fun with her from time to time, but I enjoyed, hearing her thoughts. She's very into it. No doubt. She's very into it.
I mean, some of her.
I feel bad for Daniel.
But he's into it too.
Yeah.
He's just as
he's got
into it.
He's got 3 teams like you do, though. I don't know how you do that.
People start talking fantasy, and it's just not my thing.
No, I know.
It's just not my thing.
I know. She is absolutely, it is life or death with her.
Oh, yeah.
The weekend is ruined. I did fantasy football back before it ever really became a thing because back when you didn't have computers. I mean, of course, you didn't have to do anything but typewriters back then either. But I'm serious. I loved it. And then, man, it got so hard to deal with because you had picks and drops and all that. It used to be simple. You drafted a team, that was it.
I'll tell you, for me, what it was just I tried doing baseball one year, and that's just so time-consuming. That is the most time-consuming to have your rotation and all that. So baseball was a very quick, this is not for me type of thing. Football, I did it for a few years, but then it was all of a sudden, hey, I had 2 teams, and all of a sudden I had guys playing against my other guys, and it just was this sucks. I'm rooting against everybody the entire time. I'm not even I can't even root for people because, my guy just scored, but for this other team, that's the defense I got. Yeah. So, and that just drove me nuts. So I got out of it.
I keep it at 3 to 4. And that way you can usually draft a lot of the same guys because you like it. That way it can. Now, there's going to be one week where you don't. I mean, it's impossible to have
I totally get
the same team across the board. But it's tough, which is the appeal of daily fantasy because then you don't have to worry about it. You just, do well and you win money or whatever. But I think to me it's just been an ability to keep in touch with my buddies from college. So we've had that league for 20 years now, which I can't believe we've been out of college for 20 years, but we've had that league for 20 years. And, I've got a league in town. And then, we'll probably do one with the fantasy football show next year. Well, if we get it right. So
I started doing this thing with Jared Sandler, who's one of the voices of the Texas Rangers, where you pick 12 games online. And Paul, I had to kind of help me get through it. But there's all the NFL games, so that's 16. And there's usually 12 college games. And you could take 12 of those 28 or 30, and there's weighted 8 ones, 3 threes, and 1 5. And you, based on the Vegas, right?
The spread, yeah.
And I mean, it's hard enough to pick the NFL straight up for me, but I started it. I tried to do it this week. We'll see what happens. And it's very, very competitive, and we'll see what happens. All right, here's a super chat, then we break.